All right, guys, so today we are going to be learning about how to convert standard form to slope-intercept form. So the first thing we need to understand is what standard form is. So standard form is where all of your variables in the equation are on the same side, and then all of your constants or just your plain numbers are on the other. So here you can see you've got your x and your y on the same side, and then your constant is kind of over here by itself. So we're going to learn how to take standard form like this and change it to slope intercept form, which is that y equals mx plus b. So to do that, we want to get y by itself. That's the goal. So to do that, we actually subtract our x term from both sides, and then we divide everything by our coefficient that is attached to y. Okay? And we're going to look at some examples of how to do that. So here we have two example problems. So you can see I have 2x plus 3y is equal to 12. So the first step is to subtract my x term. So here I subtract 2x from both sides. So that will leave me with just 3y over here because these will cancel out. And since this 12 does not have an x on it, we can't do any combining like terms. So we just leave this over here as a negative 2x. Then what I do is I take my coefficient right here from y, which is 3, and I'm going to divide everything in that expression by 3. So I do 3y divided by 3, which gives me just y. I take negative 2x divided by 3, and since negative 2 can't be divided evenly into 3, or sorry, 3 can't go in evenly to negative 2, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. So this is kind of easy a lot of the times because unless you get a nice number, just leave it as a fraction. You don't have to simplify it or do anything. And then I do 12 divided by 3, which gives me 4. So I get y equals negative 2x over 3 plus 4. Down here I have another example. You see I have 2x minus y is equal to negative 4. So we're going to do the same thing. Subtract that x expression, so minus 2x on both sides. And here you can see that that gives me negative y, because remember I have to leave that minus sign. And then that will give me negative 2x, and then I have the minus 4 over here still as well. So now I have to divide everything by my y coefficient, and since I have that negative sign, we're going to divide by negative 1. So I'm going to divide everything in this expression by negative 1. So here I do negative y divided by negative 1, which gives me y. Negative 2x divided by negative 1, which gives me negative 2x. And negative 4 divided by negative 1, which gives me a positive 4. So I get y is equal to 2x plus 4. So now I'm going to work out some examples for you. So here I have 6x minus 3y is equal to 12. So my first step here is to subtract that x term. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. So remember on the left side right here, they'll cancel out. So I'm left with just negative 3y. And over here, I'll get negative 6x plus 12 because I can't combine these terms. So now I'll divide everything by that y coefficient, which is negative 3. They cancel out on the left side and leave me with y. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is actually a positive 2. So I get 2x. And then 12 divided by negative 3 gives me a negative 4. So then to graph, remember now this that I highlighted is my y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that at the point 0, 4. And my slope is a positive 2, which means I'm going to go up up 2 over 1 each time. So see, I go over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2 every time just to make my line. So remember to look for those patterns like we learned before break. So we're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to get rid of my x term on the left side by subtracting it. So I'm going to subtract 18x from both sides. So that is going to leave me on the left side with just 2y is equal to negative 18x on the right side, and then we still have the positive 10, so negative 18x plus 10. Now I'm going to divide everything by my y coefficient, which is 2, and that's going to leave me with y is equal to negative 18 divided by 2, which is negative 9. So I have negative 9x plus 5. And then to graph, I find my y-intercept, which in this case is positive 5. So I go ahead and plot that. And I know that my slope is down 9 over 1. So I'm going to make that triangle right now. So here you can see your slope. So I go down 9 over 1. And I'm going to show you how I figured that out. So I know that negative 9 divided by 1 is equal to negative 9. So therefore, my rise has to be negative 9, and my run has to be 1. So here, I'm going to do the same thing. I have 3x plus 5y is equal to negative 5. I'm going to go ahead and subtract that x term from both sides. So minus 3x on both sides. Because remember, we're trying to get y by itself. So I'm left with 5y. And remember, since that negative 5 right here on the right doesn't have an x, I can't combine those. So I have just negative 3x and then a negative 5. I'm going to divide everything by my y coefficient, which in this case is 5. And that is going to leave me with y is equal to negative 3 over 5x minus 1. So see how I just leave that as a fraction? You do not need to worry about simplifying or doing anything else to that. So now to graph, I see that my y-intercept right here is negative 1, so I'm going to go ahead and plot that. And I see that my graph is going to go down 3 and over 5 because I've got a negative 3 over 5. And remember that top number is your rise and the bottom number is your run. So down here, I'm going down 3 over 5, down 3 over 5, down 3 over 5, and I'm going to do the same thing just going backwards. So I'm just going to draw my line through it. Just do your best. I mean, like I said, when we're in person and we have like rulers and everything, that's one thing. But for now, just do your best. But see, I'm going to make one of the triangles for you so you can see it. Right down here, you see that I take my rise, which is -3, and my run, which is +5. And so I take my rise over my run, and I get -3/5, which we have up here in the equation. So this up here is where I figured out how to do these triangles, okay? So just remember that when you do slope. So we're going to do the same thing over here, trying to get y by itself. So the first thing we do is get rid of that x term on the left side by subtracting 11x from both sides. So that's going to give me -6y is equal to -11x plus 54. So all I'm doing is subtracting that x term, okay? And I can't combine it, so really all you're doing is moving it to the other side. So now I'm going to divide by my y coefficient, which in this case is -6. So I do -6y over -6, -11x over -6, and 54 over -6. So that is going to give me y is equal to 11 over 6x minus, because we're doing a positive divided by a negative, and that's going to be -9. So that 11 over 6 becomes positive, because remember when we divide two negatives, so like -11 over -6, it gives us a positive number. So the only thing that changes there is we just get rid of the negative signs. And remember, 11 here is going to be our rise, and 6 is going to be our run, while -9 is going to be our y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that. I'm going to go up 11 and over 6. I only have room for 2 points on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw my line through those 2 points. And I'm going to draw my triangle so you can see again here my run of 6 and my rise of 11.